This podcast is a proud member of the UUOP network.
This is episode 608 of the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast for April 23rd, 2024. Hello, everybody. I am Michelle, your host for today. And with me, I have my sister from another Mr. Tracy.
Hello, everyone.
My brother from another mother, Chris.
What up?
And my work hubby, Lee.
Hello, everyone. I wondered where you were going to go there.
How are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah, not bad.
My mental health's all right now, I guess.
Well, I guess that's good, considering the episode we're about to start.
Yeah.
So
I've been planning this one for a while, and I think it's something... Actually, I'll give him a shout-out. It was Andy over at Holy Backcast. He did an episode with I can't remember if he was a mental health expert or a counsellor or something like that, on how to use Batman as a crutch and a way to deal with mental health situations nowadays. And it's like, I think that's something... I mean, we're going to talk about it, Michelle. I've put it in your intro there, but Universal vacations as a whole is something people massively rely on for their mental health, and it was something we had to talk about on here at some point.
Yeah.
1,000%. I just call me a psychiatrist as a travel agent.
Yeah.
I'm the next best thing. All right. So as Lee was saying, mental health is something that has become a huge deal. And we know our love of Universal Orlando can help you deal with what's going on in your life. So we reached out to the Producers Club and asked them to send in their thoughts on how Universal Orlando and UUOP have impacted their mental health. Side note, we have received that many responses that we will be doing another one of these episodes soon. So if you don't hear your email read out, don't worry, we're saving it for the next time.
That's kind of scary, how UUOP has affected them. Like, terrible. Just so bad.
All right. Well, Chris, you want to start us off with our first entry?
Sure thing. So the first one comes in from Rachel Merritt. And Rachel says, when I lived in Orlando, Universal was my backyard and my happy place. My husband and I escaped there many times a week, and it got us through so many difficult times. As geeky as it may sound, it helped our relationship, which was 12 hours long distance at the time. Sharing those park days were the highlight of our visits. We've since left Florida, and even remembering those times help a lot. We've found other things to fill the void, but recently went back after about 4 or 5 year gap. It was like coming home. We had a blast. Leading up to that trip, I discovered this podcast and dove in listening to as many episodes as I could before we left. It gave me something to look forward to and took my mind off of a very stressful time at work. So thankful for your love of all things Universal, your comedy, and the ability to mentally escape for an hour or so and pretend I'm standing in the Lost Continent or shooting water guns at Ripsaw Falls every week.
Nice.
Oh, how sweet.
See, just hearing that makes me go there now.
Yeah.
I got goosey bumps.
Goosey bumps. I mean, she hit the nail on the head. It
Absolutely.
was like coming home. Tracy says that every time. It's not like going back to Universal now. It's like going home.
Yeah, because all your annoying family there.
Not all the time.
No, you go with me every time.
I won't. I'm going to be nice to Michelle
Yeah, I don't
this
think
week.
you heard that.
I did. I heard it. I'm just not paying attention.
Lee's going to be nice to me on Mental Health Week.
That's what I said. Because I nearly said something horrible, but I won't.
That was nice. Okay, I've got one from Melanie Barber. I know that the parks are a joy for a lot of people, but they honestly hold a special place in my heart for how they help me get through the days when my mental health is worn down to nothing. When people ask me why I keep going to Universal, I always answer that it's my happy place. Simply having something to look forward to when life is at its hardest makes it a little easier to make it through the day. I go almost every year for Halloween Horror Nights with my sister, who is also my best friend, and just planning the trip gives me something to look forward to. And as a queer person, I feel like I can kind of just be myself during Halloween Horror Nights when no one else cares who you are or how you express yourself in what you wear in the fog. I keep a countdown to my next trip on my desk at work as a reminder to push through hard days, and so far it's working. Best wishes, Melanie.
Awesome.
perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very interesting thing, isn't it? The Halloween Horror Nights thing about being very accepting community. Just be yourself and no one gives a crap. And I feel like the theme park community overall is like that. You get the odd ones that aren't, but like anyone who's ever thought about joining the Producers Club, if you want to find the most welcoming bunch of people you will ever find in your life, and I'm not just saying this because they're our listeners and our friends and our family, but genuinely the nicest people you will ever hope to meet.
Our community is a family.
100%.
Yeah.
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 Next one comes from Nicole Hubbs. She said, we've been going to Universal Orlando for a couple of years, and each time I get more into the planning and anticipation. Listening to the podcast and watching vlogs help me enjoy the planning and amp up the anticipation in the months before we even get to Orlando. I know what that feeling's like. When work is stressful and overwhelming, remembering we have a trip planned always brightens my mood. I like to save episodes and videos for lunch breaks at work, my commute or exercise to help me get through the workday. Half of the fun and excitement is the planning. I completely agree with that, actually. But just being on property is magical and truly feels like an escape from reality. I'm sure we all feel this way. I'm so grateful I have found this hobby to enjoy that brightens my spirit on rough days. Oh, it's true. I have comments because obviously I'm going to come at this. I'll probably get more into it in the next episode when we've got a bit more time. But I think you guys know me well enough now that I find this, it's very much a double-edged sword. I don't know whether everyone else feels that way, but me, definitely, it's very much a double-edged sword.
Well, you do carry the burden of the work.
I carry the burden of being the most female male person in the world.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, but we'll get into that at some point later.
Well, Lee, the trick is, and I think most of us know this trick, is that before you leave the property, before you leave Universal to go home, you have to already have another trip on the books.
Yeah. And that's why this year is going to be so hard for us, because it's funny, like since 2019, obviously take out 18 months because of COVID when we couldn't have gone if we wanted to, we've had 5 trips in 4 years and we've never done that many at all, like in that such a short space of time.
Right.
So then
That's
to
amazing.
come to this year and not have anything planned and not even know when we're going to get out next year is rough.
I mean, even if you book it for every 2 years, like just having something, and this goes from like all of my clients, even if it's 2 years out, having something like on the books, somehow it just helps your brain.
It does. Because you know at the end of that you're putting up with whatever it might be at home.
Right.
The light's there at the end of the
You have
tunnel.
a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like Nicole said, a dose of escape from reality.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Up next, we have a voice memo from one of our favorite people, Jillian Dunn.
Hi, UUOP gang. This is Jill. I am not usually serious on this podcast. I usually try to make Lee's life a living hell, actually. But this is a serious topic, this being mental health. And I just read Lee's email asking us to send in stories of how Universal has affected our mental health in a positive or negative way. And I just had to immediately respond because I know for me personally, it has affected me in such a positive way. I have always loved theme parks, amusement parks, and that's always been a huge source of joy for me. I didn't come to Universal until 2011 with my family, and that's when I discovered my love for it, and then everything kind of snowballed from there. But it really wasn't until I found the UUOP specifically that I started to feel not alone, specifically within this group and the friendships that it has fostered and what has now become my family. This is the first time that I have felt like not the weirdo for being obsessed with theme parks, and the sense of community that we all have, having this common love and this common interest, has benefited me so greatly, and not feeling so alone and feeling like an odd duck. I know that many people in my life still consider me to be that for many more reasons than just that I love these theme parks. But I know that I get plenty of judgment for moving down here to be close to them and for centering a lot of my life around them. but I get a real sense of peace mentally in knowing that I am surrounded by this community of people who understand, like really understand and support that obsession alongside me. And so it's given me a great deal of benefit. And I love you all. Bye.
That was so awesome.
Yeah.
I can read as many of these messages out, but when you hear someone's voice actually talking about it, yeah, that's me done.
Yeah,
You
that
are.
was awesome.
It's
I think what she says is shared among a lot of people here.
Absolutely.
It really is. It's absolutely true.
because a lot of people in their life don't understand it. They don't understand what these theme parks mean to people.
Yeah.
And people make stupid comments. Like, I've been ridiculed for like saying, "Oh, I cried walking into Hogsmeade for the first time," or whatever it might be. And they're like, "Really? You cried? Like, what the hell?" And you're like, you don't get it.
Yeah. And then you get the people that's like, "Oh, you've got a holiday booked. Oh, let me guess.
Yeah.
You're going back to the playgrounds." And it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I am. And you haven't been and you don't get it. You go and sit on your beach and get sand up your
So communities like this of people who all feel the same are huge. And then when you hear someone like that, who, let's be honest, I've always considered Gillian a very outgoing, confident,
very strong person.
For her to say that she's always felt like a little on the outside and awkward and stuff because of what she likes is interesting, because you would never know that.
Yeah.
And now she's found her tribe.
Yeah, I mean, look at, you're going to go back to that mental health thing. You know, Gillian was instrumental in getting us over for that weekend.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange that on the outside people might seem one way, but they're not always that way. I mean, Tracy, you and I know better than anybody that we weren't confident people going into this.
No.
And now look at us.
Yeah.
Michelle, Chris, you know for the longest time doing this podcast that I was embarrassed by it in the parks. If people brought it up, I'd be like, "Oh,
You used to go mad when I'd bring it up.
because I found it so embarrassing."
Mm-hmm.
No,
And now
I mean,
I'm-
you're not embarrassed by it, but you're still like, you don't get it. You're like, you're still like,
he's not loud
people
and
don't
proud.
really care about me.
Yeah, I'm not big-headed when someone comes up to me and like, "Oh my God," I'm still like, that's weird when people are like, "Oh my God,
It is.
it's
It's
weird."
just. It is. I wouldn't say weird. It's just like, oh yeah, I forgot we've got a show.
I mean, it's that thing with the first, it brings it home, that first morning we spent with Michelle when we'd been over to Volcano Bay, and then we headed into the parks, and we'd obviously talked it up like, "Oh, we know this guy, we know this person, that person."
Yeah.
Like half an hour in,
Oh,
we'd
yeah.
bumped into like Dan and Chris, the Blues Brothers,
Yeah.
and then Rusty, and I think somebody else, and then we saw Summer on the heart, and she's like, "You really
Good
do
Lord,
know."
it took us forever to get to where we were trying to go.
Yeah, like, you really
Honestly,
do know people,
It's like going
don't you?
grocery shopping with his
And I'm
mother.
like,
It's the same.
I wasn't lying. Like, yeah, we do.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
love it. All right, up next we have a submission from Cody Whitecamp. My wife and I use Universal as an escape from the stresses of life. No matter what we're currently dealing with or have dealt with recently, there's a certain calming presence at Universal, even during packed nights at HHN. There's something so incredibly soothing about sitting at Duff Gardens and enjoying some tacos and a Buzz Cola. Boy, are we going to miss that when it's gone. As far as UUOP, it's been great to get to interact with so many cool people in the Producers Club. Not many people can relate and connect with something like an obsession over a park that most of us don't live close to. I've never met any of you in person except Chris blowing me off at HHN.
Whoa.
JK, LOL.
That's what she said.
Chris is like,
There's so many ways I can go with this.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Took me a second there.
All three of us were making the joke. Michelle's like, "Oh, that's nice."
My blonde roots came through there for a second.
What
I love
happens
you,
at Horror
Modi.
Nights stays at Horror Nights.
He says, but I still feel a connection and appreciate all that you do.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's too easy sometimes to think about us just sat here talking about this geeky stuff, but it genuinely does impact people. Yeah, this one's going to be a tough one to get through, I think. But I really appreciate Nicole Singleton sending this in. So she said, in 2016, I went to my first Halloween Horror Nights. I was a year into a new relationship, my first since walking away from a life that weighed me down for 15 years. The short version is that those years were filled with stress and abuse in many forms. The only silver lining to come from that time is my 3 wonderful children. I walked away broken, oversensitive, and without confidence. The new relationship was and is the exact opposite of what I had experienced in the past. My boyfriend Travis is a true gentleman, and the love for Universal and horror is just an added bonus. We are a perfect match, and so we decided that I needed to experience Halloween Horror Nights. The rest, as they say, is history. I knew on my first visit, it's amazing how many people say that about Halloween Horror Nights.
Yes.
Yep.
I knew on my first visit that the HHN community was so special. I talked to guests in line, which I never do. People complimented my outfits, my hair, my shoes. It was like nothing I've ever experienced. No judgment, just a bunch of horror-loving people enjoying the season together. I was home. There's that sentiment again. Of course, we quickly became pass holders and frequented the parks as often as possible. We've shared memories as a couple and with our children as a family, and each year, time spent at Universal gets better and better. It wasn't until one of my dear friends, Mandy, introduced me to the UUOP that I started listening to the podcast. It was around my first Halloween Horror Nights trip, and I remember asking myself, who are these guys? They have such great interaction. She was obviously listening to somebody else, by the way.
Yeah.
They have such great interaction and are so much fun. Since then, UUOP is a weekly routine. Admittedly, I spent an ungodly number of hours catching up on all the years I'd missed.
Wow.
Oh, poor girl.
And that's why her mental health is in the pan by now.
Yeah.
By the time I was all caught up, I felt like I had a new group of friends. You all cannot imagine all of the times an episode got me through a stressful day, made me smile through tears, or had me laughing hysterically when I really wanted to just break down. This is why I acted like such a groupie when we happened to run into you all at Halloween Horror Nights a few years back. I was awestruck. It was awesome.
It really was.
It was such, like, I just can't get over. So, Michelle, the story goes that we were coming out, it was our RIP tour night. We were coming out of Spirits of the Coven, and Mandy and Nicole were coming out of whichever house it was, the two exits that came out at the same spot. I can't remember what it was that year. And we just heard this, Lady Tracy, oh my God, we love you guys. And we're like, what the hell's going on? And like, Chris is here. And it was just the chances of them and us being in the same space at the same time, and there's thousands of people, is crazy.
Yeah.
He's so sweet.
I am a mother of three, a special needs mom, a small business owner, and a government employee. I spin a lot of plates and run myself crazy making sure my children have what they need and want, and Universal and UUOP are my escape. When I'm at Universal, nothing else in the world matters. I set all of it down so I can focus on fun and fellowship. When I throw on my headphones to catch up on UUOP, I feel like I'm hanging out with friends. As if UUOP hasn't done enough for me, it led me to my newest venture. When Michelle posted her hiring ad for Porky Vacations at the end of 2023, I just knew it was a sign. I applied immediately without hesitation. What the hell was I doing? I had never been a travel agent, but I felt in my soul that this was where I was meant to be. And it was. I joined the team this past January, and I am over the moon. I can say with certainty that life before Universal and UUOP look very different than life now. I have lived through some dark days just like everyone else, and in those times I tune into the podcast, I look at pictures from past trips or count down to my next visit. I'm so grateful for the experiences that have led me to where I am today, and I attribute so much of my current path to Universal and UUOP.
That is awesome. That is so awesome.
These are getting to the heart, man.
Yeah.
I know.
These are God.
I mean, Chris, you and I have talked about it before where, you know, we record at an awkward time for all of us, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And trust me, that does not go unnoticed. I know it's not easy for everyone. But Chris, like you said, it's the middle of your work day and work's tough. And you'd be like, who the hell wants to get off work in the middle of the day and record a podcast? But then you get on the podcast and we fight and we argue and we laugh and we joke, and it just makes all that goes away.
Yeah, it feels better in the end. Like
it's the combination of just like doing these recordings just is us getting together, right? It's a guaranteed us getting together, because how many times do you have people that like you want to sit down and talk to for a bit? It's hard to make that time, to cut out that little bit of time, right?
It is, yeah.
Everybody has that, and it's not because you don't want to. It's just life gets hard as an adult. Just having this brings us together, and coming out the other end, like even on times where Universal wasn't even a thought because my brain is so twisted up into everything else with work and with life problems and whatever, and then we come out and I'm like, I feel so much better, and I gotta plan another trip now, because it's just that feeling.
It's weird, isn't it, to say that you carving out that time to talk to people when we've got so many ways to connect with people now, and yet it's not the connection method, it's the time.
Yeah.
Yep. And Nicole is rocking it as a travel agent. I know she said, what the hell was I doing? But I don't know.
She's
Have
got
you
the
ever
right
just like
personality.
jumped into something that you're like, I don't know. I'm just going to dive in, and then it just works. That just works for her.
Yeah.
She's so good at it.
That was
That's
an
awesome
amazing
to hear.
story as well. Like that journey is just wow.
Awesome.
Strong girl.
Yep, to say the least, for sure. All right, well, let's take a quick break to go grab some tissues and hear from Porky Vacations.
Man, we need a vacation.
Oh, I got this.
Whoa, that's awesome. But I was thinking something a little more adventurous.
Okay, how about this?
Yes!
And how about some relaxation from Mama?
Oh, perfect. How did you do that?
Easy. Portkey Vacations.
For your next vacation, let Portkey Vacations take away all the guesswork and stress of planning. From air and hotel to theme park tickets and everything else in between, they've got you covered. Just visit PortkeyVacations.com and touch the Portkey to get started with your free, no-obligation quote request. With just one touch, and Portkey Vacations will magically take you wherever you want to go.
Welcome back. We are going to jump right back in because we still have a lot of entries to get to. So we're going to start off with Chris and an entry from Denise Harrison.
Oof. Yeah. So Denise says, I am a hospice nurse and have a lot of windshield time, which allows my mind to wander into some pretty dark places. My quote therapy is vacation and vacation planning. As a 56-year-old with a 60-year-old husband, we are not normal. We love roller coasters. We've done Disney several times and loved it. Sorry, guys. We forgive you. When we were there 2 years ago, we started talking about Universal. As I knew nothing, I searched for podcasts and was surprised that there weren't many. As luck would have it, UUOP was the first that popped up. From first listen, I was hooked. Natural progression, we booked with Portkey Vacations, and I am now a producer.
And they are now going to Universal in just a couple of weeks.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yes.
I could only imagine the amount of places your mind can go as a hospice nurse.
Yeah.
It's gotta be tough.
And needing that level of escapism is very, or therapy in this matter is very, very important.
Yeah. That's gotta be super tough.
Yeah, jobs where you're not having to be, not necessarily like my job, I don't have to be switched on all the time, and when things is it's gives my brain a lot of time to go to places it shouldn't.
Right. And I don't know what it says about me, but when I first feel myself getting like overly stressed, a lot of people's reaction is just to shut down or go read a book or sleep or something. The first thing that my brain wants to do is go ride a roller coaster.
Fair enough.
Every time I'm like, I'm stressed, I need to ride a roller coaster.
Okay,
let's go, Audrey.
Next time we're in studios, then we need to get Michelle incredibly stressed at the front of the park. And we might get her on Rip Ride Rocket.
Yeah, that's a pretty fast way to get a dopamine hit.
Yeah. Quick, Michelle, we need to ride Rip Ride Rocket before you crash.
Lee's just got to really me off really bad.
Oh, that
and
won't
then
be
I might
hard.
get on.
Yeah,
He's good at that.
I do that without trying.
Next time you leave me stranded at the hotel and go to Halloween Horror Nights without me, I might just go get on Rip Ride
How
Rocket.
dare you bring that back up? That was a mistake. It was an accident. I'm shocked.
Anyway, let's hear from Adam Phillips. He says, this is something I've not really talked or shared before, but Universal Orlando really became a bit of a sanctuary for me and a couple of my brothers while we dealt with the passing of my father and his battle with cancer a couple of years ago. My parents moved to the Orlando area in their retirement, and my dad got to live the last 6 years of his life down there. He was diagnosed with colon and lung cancer in 2019 and passed away at the end of 2021. We made many trips down to see my father in 2020 and 2021, and Dad was often too tired to really entertain us for a lot of the day, so Universal became a place where we retreated to and could still get back in the evenings to spend time with Dad when he felt better. The Orlando heat is a lot, and Dad would sleep much of the day and became more active in the evening. After Dad passed, we took time to set his affairs in order, and Universal became a place I could go to get away with for a few hours and really process what was happening. I spent a lot of time just walking around the San Francisco waterfront area, having a quiet drink and thinking about Dad. Whew, this is a tough one to get through. Which is why, for me, that area is where I go just about every evening before leaving the parks when I visit. Dad was not a theme park person. I don't really think he ever spent any time in a single theme park, but Dad loved movies, and some of my best memories were of watching movies alone with him on a Friday night. Dad really loved to see all of the photos of us riding rides like River Adventure and E.T. because those were the movies we would watch together when I was a kid. He was also the person that introduced me to Harry Potter when I was 11, way back in 1999. So I think seeing how much the Wizarding World meant to me also gave him some comfort because he was really quite proud of being a part of that. I think Universal Orlando will always have a little piece of that special meaning for me. And when I went back down this spring, I rode the rides, saw the shows, and ate all the great Mardi Gras food. But I also took a little bit of time to think about Dad and toast to his memory. Whew.
Yeah.
I
that
always
was hard.
think they're tough situations, aren't they? Because it's like, yes, I get where he was coming from, but then it's always going to be a little sad when you're at that. Do you know what I mean? It's always going to be a connection to not a bad memory, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's interesting that his dad didn't go into the park.
No.
But the memories are still there because it's the connection to the movies. I think it's a really, really nice way to honour him.
Yeah.
I have that was tough for me to get to. My dad is still living, luckily and thankfully, but he does have a very bad heart. Functions about 15% capacity. He can't go to the parks anymore. But he has been to the parks with us many times. And one of the only reason why I love Mel's Diner so much is because of him. Because when we were kids, and he took us there, we didn't really have a lot of money. It was a big deal that we were just going to the parks at all. And so for him to actually splurge and let us eat at Mel's Diner in the theme parks as opposed to bringing in sandwiches was like a big deal to me as a kid. And so, and I remember that. So every time I go there, I think of that. And so that's hard to think about that will be me as well. Someday, probably not too far in the future.
Because you've talked about your nostalgia for Mel's before and never actually told that story before.
Yeah. So that was a tough one. That's going to be me. Probably not too long.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going back to. Sorry, these stories are getting to me a little bit. But going back to that, yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword. But there's a piece of at least me that when I go and do something that kind of brings back a memory of somebody, I think that somberness and that sadness almost helps me out a little bit, and mixing it together with that good memory just kind of brings it all together. Because that's the deal. You can't have that happy memory without something there that
grounds
took it away from you. I'm having trouble explaining it.
No,
but in my mind, it's there.
Yeah.
It grounds you to the experience. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Wow.
Now we have a voice memo from one of my favorite people, Corey Hall.
Hello, UUOP family. It's Corey here, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about how Universal Orlando and UUOP have helped improve my mental health. Much like the rest of the world, I was really down in 2020. I was really depressed. It wasn't just due to the pandemic, but the pandemic really exacerbated that. Part of what helped me was I found UUOP during the time. I was looking for ways to consume as much as I could about theme parks, including Universal. And so I binged a whole lot of UUOP episodes, and mostly the ones about HHN. But I quickly felt like one of the UUOP family. So I want to thank you to Lee, Tracy, and the producers and past and present hosts of UUOP for building this community and welcoming me into this family. Additionally, in 2020, one of the things I had held out hope for was my newfound happy place at HHN. 2019 was my first year attending the event. My family loved it. But in my heart, I knew that dreaded August announcement that they made to cancel the event was imminent. It just was the best decision, and I absolutely agree that they should have made that decision to protect our Universal family. However, during our anniversary trip that year, they announced that they were opening Bride of Frankenstein Lives and Revenge of the Tooth Fairy to daytime guests for a seasonal Halloween experience, and this just immediately gave me joy. And it played a huge part in helping me get through the rest of the year and looking forward into, when this Halloween Horror Night season came back. My family were able to get a taste of HHN that year, and I absolutely fell in love with Bride of Frankenstein. And Bride of Frankenstein Lives is my number one house for HHN. There have been so many great houses, and there have been better houses than Bride of Frankenstein Lives, but it's going to be hard for any house to top that one on my list. I'm so thankful that my family and I got to experience it in 2020 and then again in 2021. That was an incredible, incredible experience to have. And so thanks again to the UUOP family and the Universal Orlando family for bringing me some joy into my life during a time that I needed it. Ride or die.
Oh, that was sweet. Corey has a very soothing therapist voice.
Yeah, it does. Because I bumped into him at Horror Nights last year. You weren't with me, were you? We were over by Springfield, and I think I was going to the bathroom or filling my freestyle cup up with something, and he was over there.
Where was I?
You were there, but you weren't there, as it were.
Obviously.
It was only like a 2-minute quick. Yeah. Yeah,
We
Horror
love
Nights.
Corey. If you like my website, you can thank Corey for it. He did it all.
Yeah, he did the Rush of
nice.
Fear logo as well,
Yeah.
and he did the Taste of Universal logo as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very talented.
Yeah.
It's funny how much Horror Nights is coming up in this as well, by the way.
Yes.
Which is interesting. You don't think of horror when you think of mental health. I don't know what that says about the cult.
It's an adrenaline thing then.
I'll tell you what, I can tell you one person who's listening to this that said it didn't help my mental health. I'm going to call you out, Miss Kelly Wood. She's like, it did not help my mental health.
Yeah, she needs therapy because of Horror Nights.
Yeah.
I think Horror Nights just makes me think, well, things could be worse.
Yeah.
That's very true.
I could be getting my spine ripped out of my back at the moment.
Yeah.
Perspective. That's what it gives
Exactly.
us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, this next one is from Katie Mack. The best way I can describe the positive effect the parks have on my mental health is this. As soon as I head to the tram at MCO to go to the main terminal to head to my Uber, my mind rests. It completely rests. All of the anxiety-producing crap just evaporates. Then the thrill starts to creep in. By the time I arrive to my on-site hotel, the happiness is really kicking into gear. I usually arrive late, so perhaps a cocktail in whichever lounge, and then my only concern is to check the weather and then lay out my clothes for the next day, making sure I have what I need. Those are the only responsible thoughts I have. Next morning, pure joy as I head downstairs, and the only pressing thought I have at that point is whether to take the boat or walk. On the boat, the breeze blows past my face and I can really enjoy the sights and sounds because I am really in the moment. Of course, entering the parks is so exciting, and once I'm in there, the only things that I think about are all of the wondrous sights around me, the people with me, and where I will wander next. Reality be damned for those precious few wonderful days. Now I'm dying to get back there.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Is she a writer? Because that was written perfectly, and I followed along with her every step of the way.
It was so poetic and spot on.
Interesting. It's one of those things, like for me, it's a tiny little thing, but living in England where the weather's crap, one of the things I love about going to Florida is I don't have to worry about what I'm going to wear for the most part. You just get up in the morning, sling a pair of shorts on, sling a t-shirt, and you know you're good to go for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
It's a little thing, but it does make a difference.
Uh-huh.
What's just going based off of what Katie was saying? What is your guys that thing that switches, right? Like she said, for her, it's everything evaporates once she gets to the tram at MCO. Like, is that the same thing for you? Because I don't fly in, so that's not what my thing is. But what is your guys' thing?
My two things depends on whether I'm driving or flying. If I'm driving, my thing is crossing the border into Florida.
Okay.
Like as soon as I cross that border, it's like
interesting.
I'm just like shut off from the world. It feels so amazing. Flying, it's the second I walk into the airport, like to even get on the plane to fly. Yeah. So as soon as I'm at the airport and I park my car and I'm in that airport with my bags, I'm done. I'm done with life.
That's before that for me. It's that going to bed and getting up 2 hours early. 2 hours later, sorry.
2 hours, literally 2 hours later.
And then halfway down the motorway, suddenly going, oh, it's light. It's always the same. It's never gradual. It's just like someone flicks a switch. Yeah. And we're halfway down the motorway and it's gone from pitch black to, hang on, we didn't even see a sunrise. What the hell? That's how I know that we're on holiday. that and the food, because I'm not having to think about what I'm making for dinner.
True.
That for me is very much yeah.
For me, it's why we've never, like, a lot of people who come over from the UK will stay in a villa. And it's one of the reasons, there's not really many of us to justify it, and they're usually too far out. But that thing of, like, I'm on holiday, I am not cooking, I am not washing, I am not doing anything that I would do at home on holiday.
Yep. Although the ability to do laundry would be nice. But not in a like in your room.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
For me, it's once we're in our hotel room. Because I am the stress head. So I don't relax until I'm checked in.
That first foot.
I'm checked in and all the travel's done. We've got our Uber or driven or whatever it might be, and I'm checked in, and in the room, we've got in the room, and the room's fine. That's when I relax.
Okay, that tracks for you for sure.
Yeah. Because I know everything that can go wrong between leaving our house and setting foot in our hotel room.
Been there.
So that's the point when I'm like, right, I'm here now. That's it. I can just switch off.
Interesting. Okay. For us, I mean, we always drive, so it's the same thing for me. I think it's right when I see the crest of Krakatoa, or the tip.
Yeah.
Like coming off the highway, I think getting onto the I-4 there and just kind of seeing that, that's it. Like it flips and I'm on vacation mode. And I could have had been tired or stressed out on the ride up. The turnpike just sucks in Florida because it's just all flat and nothing. So it's not even a fun drive. But the second I hit I-4 and see that, it's over. It's like, okay, we're here.
Nice.
Used to be the bumpy bridge, didn't it?
Yeah. I like that. Sand Lake Road's changed so much, but for us, there's like a bridge that comes over from the B line over onto really hits Sand Lake Road, and it was a really undulating,
isn't it?
You were like, whoa, and that was the point where we knew we were in Florida, and we knew we were in Orlando at that point. It was weird, but they flattened it all out now. It's crap.
Yeah, no fun.
God, I've forgotten about that.
Nice. All right, Chris, you want to tell us what Natalie Horth has to say?
Yes. So Natalie says, I think Universal and UUOP are happy and safe places for me. When I go to the parks, I'm not on call for work, and this was such a big deal when I used to be a manager supervisor of a 24-hour mental health apartment building. Work was so stressful during this time for me. I remember being at such a low point and not having much to be excited about because work was so draining physically and mentally. I would constantly get calls, and it was so hard to have a good work-life balance. But when I would be on vacation, someone would be on call for me, and I was able to relax. I could immerse myself in the IPs and just forget about the real world for a bit. Universal became a home away from home where I would go to help wind down and recalibrate for life. It was hard during the pandemic because I didn't have that happy place for a bit, but I did have UUOP. The podcast and producers club allowed me to connect with new people who felt like me too. Now I'm not on call the same way I was before, thank gosh, but Universal will always be that place for me. It's tied to so many happy memories, new friends, great food, and laughing until we cry. I will always be forever grateful for connecting with Universal when I did. When they say welcome home on ET, it really does mean it for me. Natalie.
Natalie and I have talked about how much Universal means to her. She's another one a little bit like me that way. She tagged us in an Instagram post last week. I'll have to show you it. Leaving the parks, like the sad trudge. And all I could see was the woman in front of her scratching her ass. And I messaged that, and it's like, all I can see in this video is the woman in front of you scratching her butt. And she's like, I didn't even see that. It's like a proper outbreak up there.
Wow.
I'll have to show you. It was funny.
It is up here, man.
It was funny.
That's just expression how she felt.
Yeah, but again, it's that thing of, Natalie said it there, isn't it? It's that thing of finding like-minded people. It's huge for people. Just that acceptance of knowing I'm not the only nerd out there that loves this stuff is massive.
Yeah, and the fact that when you've got stories to tell, which we all have a myriad of stories to tell from the parks, you're not having to go in and say, oh, so I rode this ride, and then you have to explain what the ride is, and then answer all these questions, and then you get to your story, by which point it's kind of like, well, I've been here for 2 hours, what's the point? And they still don't get it as well. So not having all of that and just being able to go in and say, oh, did you see that on this ride? Or, and people just immediately know what you're talking about. And then you just like geek out. I love it.
Yeah. Also, being on call for a 24-hour place is a nightmare.
I can't imagine.
Uh-huh.
Having done that once in my life, you're just never not working. It's even though you're not doing anything, you got to check your phone.
Yeah.
Make sure you didn't get something that comes in at any time. It's terrible.
Yeah.
This is kind of why I definitely felt guilty at the last weekender for, I know it was a work thing, but how much Michelle wasn't present because of the things you were having to chase up. So on the Progressive Water Taxi dinner, spending half an hour trying to get hold of Royal Pacific on the phone to tell them we were running late, spending most of Sunday morning over at the beach club just to make that speakeasy a much better experience. And it's like you missed out on quite a bit because of that. And I feel guilty because that's what we're supposed to be there to get away from.
Yeah.
So me, Tracy, and Chris got to enjoy those bits while you were effectively still working.
Yeah, but at the same time, I like doing that stuff, but I did miss out on just hanging. So I don't know how to do both, but we'll figure it out for next time.
Give Universal a whip and tell them, here, there's your elbow, there's your... You two talk to each other.
And Disney.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Tracy, you want to tell us what Adam Meadow has to say?
I will.
This is the last one.
Okay, Adam says, I dealt with horrible anxiety and to a lesser extent depression silently in my whole youth. Specifically, while working the various 9-to-5 night shift jobs I've had to keep to both survive and stay enrolled in my college degree programme I was slowly chipping away at. Growing up watching movies and playing video games where jobs are not a priority and adventure is, I would get both depressed and anxious being trapped in a certain location for 8 hours a day, more if you're also commuting, which is of course unpaid and unappreciated. This dread would follow me on previous so-called vacations, which usually involved me staying home and sleeping or travelling to the next state over. It wasn't until I was 27 years old I finally decided to spend most of my hard-earned pennies and take myself and my wife, girlfriend at the time, to Universal in November of 2014 so she could experience the Wizarding World. I was extremely nervous catching the flight from Massachusetts to Florida as it was a lot of money for us at the time and I didn't know what to expect. Upon landing at MCO and stepping out of the plane, it was a totally different scene. It was exciting, people seemed happy, I could see palm trees and it was warm and sunny. Feeling the Florida warmth really hit us when we stepped out to the passenger pickup area in our jeans and sweatshirts. It's something I'll never forget. Oh, yes, been there. Upon waking up on the first morning and putting on shorts and a t-shirt in November, which I could not do back home. Nope, same here. We ate the continental breakfast and took our shuttle to City Walk. Passing City Walk and getting our 5-day park-to-park passes set up was a breeze. Now it was time to explore for the first time. Universal. We were greeted by the Hulk, but my wife wanted to go straight to Hogsmeade. We sprinted past Zeus Landing and saw Hogsmeade, and we were both so amazed. I couldn't believe someone had built something so immersive in the real world, and we made our way to Forbidden Journey, which is our first ride ever at Universal. After experiencing the queue for the first time, not just some boring line, I was able to forget work and all of the worries of the world and just enjoy the moment. City Walk at night was also an amazing experience. After our first day ended, I was excited because I knew we had 4 more days ahead of us of fun. I was able to get a great night's sleep as I was able to rest my mind and not just my body. The next 4 days were amazing and magical. We had Thanksgiving at the parks, which was a nice change from the monotonous, sometimes forced family ordeal. Even while leaving at the end of our trip, I was still happy because I knew I could return someday. I've had a more positive disposition ever since. It wasn't until our second trip in 2017 that I started looking for ways to keep that magic with me at home. I found UUOP randomly on YouTube while searching for Universal content, joined the Producers Club and learned that others were just as enthusiastic about Universal as I was. I can always listen to park music online, read comments from strangers sharing their points of view when hearing that sweet port of entry music. Oh yes. Some of those who yearn to return home or who are counting down the days to their next trip. All of this helped me tremendously to navigate through real life. I'd even go on Zillow and look at houses near the parks that I'd never buy, just in case. I can't relate. I've never done that.
Yeah.
Years later, I now have a job and family I love, mental and economical stability to the point where I don't have to heavily lean on fantasy anymore. Universal helped get me through some rough times, gave me a sense of community even though I never did open up about what I was dealing with, and helped keep me centered enough not to seek more medical treatments. Universal became a pillar, one of many I could lean on until I was able to get to a point where I could walk on my own, and I'm glad such a place exists for people like us and everyone else.
Community more than anything else, isn't it? We've said it about the podcast. It's like we could stop this podcast now, and the family that we have because of it would carry on forever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's gone beyond just a podcast now.
Right. All those people out there going, "Oh, we're never going to get rid of them."
And I'll be honest, that's a lot of
Alexa.
That's a lot of the reason it's still going.
Yeah.
It's for me a sense of duty.
Yes,
to the people who
we feel it's like we're custodians.
Like, I don't want to say that I'm doing it because I know how much people rely on it, but I also don't want to not do it because I also know how much people rely on it. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah.
And there's also people out there that, not just us, but anything like this, who need this and will find it at some point. And I want that community to still be there, active and thriving for them.
Yes.
Coming in as well. Because that door will never close as long as we're around.
I know. Look, I'm gonna throw her under the bus again. Kelly is the prime example. She is arguably one of my best friends at this point. Not arguably. I was going to say my best friend, other than you, of course, dear.
Suck up.
But she's only been listening since COVID.
Yeah.
She found us during COVID, and because I was I used the podcast as my get through COVID experience, something to focus on other than sitting and staring at the wall, which, to be honest, I did do on a number of occasions. And so I was like reaching out to people who'd emailed and just kind of starting up conversations, and that's how Kelly and I got talking and how we've become the friends that we are. Yeah, we will talk more on the next episode, but as I said, it's very much a double-edged sword. People, it's having a lot of people have said it now, that it's like, knowing we've got that to look forward to in the future, you've got to look on the flip side of that as well. So Chris, I'm gonna throw my heart on my sleeve here. When you went down for Mardi Gras this year, opening weekend, there was like you and Alexa and Gillian and Madeline and John and
Griswold.
Becky and Joni and David and Grayson and Francesca.
Freaking everybody.
Yeah. It was so hard for me to watch all of that going on. And then also I have to edit those clips that you were sending me knowing that we weren't there. And I know you guys involved us as much as you possibly could, but it wasn't the same. And it's so hard.
I was desperate to
knowing
be there.
that all you guys are there and we're not.
The Tyler's brought pictures of you guys.
I know.
It was lovely.
While we're doing group photos, you were very much missed.
I know,
and
it was so sweet.
It's that's what I'm saying. It's that flip side of it, though. It's like when you're not there. For me, I don't know how everyone else feels about that specifically. I know I'm a big softie more than the average.
Really haven't
more
noticed.
Than the other two people on this call who were in the same situation I was at that point. Knowing that I wasn't there, I do find that hard at times. I know Horror Nights is going to be a tough one for me this year, not being there, because we've been nearly every year for the last...
That's a tough one for me. And what was harder was it last week when I realised that my plan for this year was going, and it's my 50th this year, so it was...
And your graduation as well.
My graduation I wanted to celebrate. And we're not going to get there, and that's hitting really hard at the moment.
Yeah,
Christmas is my 50th, so
who do you want
just
to
saying.
Like, who do you want to celebrate with?
My family.
I can buy you a premium cocktail.
Yes.
Yeah. You mean a Jack and Coke?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to that end, right? It just kind of goes back to what I was saying before. I mean, what's the alternative? Is you never got to experience any of that.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you? You got to take that bad with the good. It's the same thing even when you go and spend a long amount of time with, let's go back to even when you guys do come down here, right? And we spend, 4 or 5 days, depending how long each of us are there. And then it's so weird saying goodbye.
It's horrible.
You know how hard. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, but Chris, we say goodbye about 15 times to you guys.
Do, to be fair.
Yeah, we even have dinner again after we said goodbye because I'm like, well,
times.
I don't want to leave yet.
Yeah. I'm going to call into work.
You know, when we came down for the weekend, how hard it was for me to say goodbye that night because Alexa turned around, she was like, "Right, we have to say bye," and I just walked away because I was like, "Nope."
Yeah.
And she came over and just put her hand on my shoulder, and that was it. I was done.
I mean, going back, it's so like for you guys in particular with the I feel like the friendship that we've created, right? That bond. It's since you guys live so far away, right? It's different. Like I can catch Michelle way more easier and often at a Mardi Gras, at a Horror Nights, right? Like we
could, yeah. We don't, but we could.
We could. Maybe this year we do in October. Who knows?
All right.
But that I remember that first year of us doing the Weekender and getting together and having to say goodbye then because that was, I believe, the first trip you got. That's after Jillian did the whole GoFundMe, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was the first trip, and it was like we didn't know like when you guys were coming back or anything, and it felt really weird because like, damn, we've never met. Then we hung out, and then you hung out. You're like, oh, I want to hang out more, but it's not easy for you guys just to come over here. And then having that like coming back so many times after, it was a little bit easier to say goodbye those last times because it's like, well, we know you're coming back in X amount of time. So I get where you're coming from like this time around where it's like, we don't know when the next trip. There will be a next trip, but we don't know when it is.
And that's how it was when we first started coming over, like years in between trips. And the fact that we've been completely spoiled over the last sort of 4 or 5 years of having so many trips in quick succession makes the fact that we haven't got one this year that little bit harder. Yeah.
Well, we know you'll be back next year for the Epic Weekender.
We'll be back. Tracy's desperate, right? She's already, and I'm not me.
Desperate.
This isn't me. Tracy talked about going for opening, I don't know, weekend, whenever the hell the thing opens.
And that's I'm so conflicted. I don't know if I want to be there in that mess or not, but we'll see.
I feel like we should be, but also expect to do nothing.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly how you'd have to go.
Yeah. And if you get to do anything, bonus.
But yeah, it's that point of like just being there opening day would be amazing.
But being there with our families, not because if it was just me and you before all of this, we'd have been arguing because it was too stressful and, you know.
I mean, that happens anyway, but...
Oh, it's because you don't do as you're told. But you know,
but when you have the groups like you're talking about,
when you've got a group together,
it's such a different, it's such a different vibe.
You're all laughing. You send people on drinks runs and stuff like that. It's just,
I'd say back to last year. One of the best little memories I have was just us stood by that pop-up bar over by Animal Actors, just with a barrel.
Good experience for you.
Someone went and just got some
premium
2 or 3
cocktails.
things of pizza fries, and we just all stood there and just chatted and ate pizza fries, and then Nicole and Jeff turned up, and it wasn't even anything to do with Horror Nights. It was just chilling out with our friends, which we don't get to do enough of. No. It's usually go, 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 go. You don't get that. That's why the last Weekender was the best we had, because we worked in all that just hanging out time.
Yep. Well, our next Weekender is slated for 2025. We don't have any details yet. We'll be working on that hopefully sooner than later. But we do want to definitely plan more just chillin' time, because that has been the overall theme as feedback after our Weekenders. And obviously from this too, like everybody's just looking for community in the long run when it comes to mental health. And so that'll be super important just to get everybody together and hang out. So maybe stay tuned for all of that.
Maybe we should have a Weekender pool day.
Amen.
I mean, I won't be going in the pool, but all right.
That, just sitting in lounges, drinking drinks, talking.
At the beach club. We can rent the beach club again.
You mean that's what Chris and Alexa and Joni and David do at Cabana Bay every time they come down?
Yeah. Yep. We just need to crash the Griswold pool day.
There's nothing better than sitting in the pool with a bucket and just marinating. You're a soup now. Congratulations. You're now a soup and you're marinating with liquor. It's fantastic.
It is. Really is.
Can I just sit in the bucket?
We can bring a tub. It's fine.
If you drink enough, you probably would end up sitting in the bucket at some point.
Drink a few of those bubble tubs.
I know you've got to shoot quick, Michelle, but I just want one last thing to say. For me personally, I know how much this community means that I can be myself and not be judged. Because I know I'm a basically an over-emotional mess at times, and yet no one judges me for it.
No.
Nobody. And that's huge.
Yeah.
That I know I can be I know I can walk into those parks and hear that Islands of Adventure port of entry music and be tears pouring down my face, and no one's like, oh, look at that.
Well, they might be saying that, but we still love you.
I'm the one saying it.
It makes you realise now that Universal is less about the rides and more about the people.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yep. All right.
We're
Well, that
all
is going to
blessed.
wrap up this podcast. Don't forget, we want you to let us know how bad Fast and Furious Supercharged is by
So
submitting
bad.
your fun facts about how bad it is. Get them to us at podcast@uuopodcast.com. Stay tuned. We will have another one of these episodes for all those submissions that didn't quite make it to this one. So stay tuned for that to release sometime in the future. But until then, we will catch you next week. Bye.
Are you insane? Get out of here. The curse, it's real. The podcast is over. So, the Magi want you to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, TikTok, and Pinterest. Just search UUO Podcast. For all the podcast news and articles, check out our blog at uuopodcast.com. Contact us by emailing us at podcast@uuopodcast.com. And if you want to join the Producers Club, email us at uuopproducers@gmail.com. Silence! With your subscriptions, we shall rule for all eternity. Listen and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Not even the Magi can save you now. There is no escape. Your end shall be my beginning. Prepare yourself for your next trip by emailing Michelle at portkeyvacations.com. She can take care of all aspects of your next Universal Orlando vacation. We hope you enjoyed your podcast. Please remain seated and keep your arms and legs inside the prepare to forfeit your souls. Check out the other podcasts on the UUOP network. Rush of Fear, Halloween Horror Nights podcast, the theme park duo for all your West Coast news and info, and the Taste of Universal, Universal Orlando food podcast. So hey, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. I would have enjoyed this podcast a lot more if I had gotten my cup of coffee.